Kickstarter, Kickstarter. Wherefore art thou my Kickstarter? What's up, Chris, Liege Games? Let's do this, man. What is coming out next week? I mean, besides Monster Hunter, besides having to decide whether or not I need to spend another $300 on a pledge before the end of freaking April. I mean, come on. Hyperspace Kraken! It's going to be an expensive month, and who knows, right? But let's take a look. Let's see what we got coming out this week. Let's see what you need to be preparing your wallets for. And as always, I'm going to be putting out some stuff this week. I'm going to do some Marvel United. Going to put out a review. Going to put out a Should You Back. If you like it, check it out. If you want to know what else I was interested in April, check out the video from Thursday. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for the clicks. Let's do this. First up in April 20, we have One Card Wonder by Nat Levin being published by Ape Games. This is a hand management resource collection style of game. It's also a little bit of a bag puller, if you will, because you're pulling resources from a bag on your turn. You're pulling 3 cubes from a bag, putting 1 in your personal supply and 2 in the general supply. You are given a wonder card at the beginning of the game that you are trying to build. There's a set of support buildings, but the tricky part is you can build any building first, but you have to build from the ground level up in this card management style game. So what are you doing? 1, collecting your resources. 2, constructing those structures that I just mentioned that allow you to speed up the building of your wonder in the first place, and then build your wonder. Obviously, 1, 2, 3, it's a little more nuanced than that, but that's the general gist. Selling goods, trading goods, using your workers to mark what's been built. You're going to have 4 meeple workers that are going to aid in your progress of building your wonder in the first place. Now, the rule book is already up on Board Game Geek, so you can get a little bit of a glimpse of what it's actually going to look like. Here we go, and it scales anywhere from 2 to 6 players. So depending on the amount of players, you're taking the set amount of cubes of each resource and putting in a variable amount per player count. As you can see here, 2 players, you're putting 6 of each in, 6 players, you're putting 12 of each in. So you can see a little bit of that sense of what you're doing. And here are your wonders of which you're going to be building, and you're having to start from the bottom up, as you can see, with the resources in order to build it as it goes up. So what are you doing? Drawing resources, getting all of 1 resources from the supply, paying. You can sell for an exchange ratio that I mentioned earlier of 2 to 1. Then you're going to be using those, and you're going to be using the base to build the next higher level. So obviously you can't build this one before you can build these 2. So that's what you're going to be having to do slowly but surely as the game goes on. You each have a set of support buildings on your mat that don't need to be built in any specific order. But they're adding new actions that you can select on your turn depending on when you build them is going to open things up potentially to be faster in other areas. This also looks like it's going to come with a leaders expansion to add some more asymmetric type abilities and ways of playing with the base game. So if that sounds like fun to you, you need to check it out when it launches on April 20. Next up is Dark Mages, the Advanced Edition, which is also launching on April 20. This is an advanced edition of the regular Dark Mages, which was a game from 2016, which is self-described as a combination of a TCG and an RPG. It's a 2 to 4 player game from Bleem, where you are a wizard dueling it out against other wizards trying to reign supreme. It takes the RPG theme where you are leveling up your wizard in order to get stronger and cast stronger spells, but it's also taking a little bit of the RPG spin in the sense that it says randomly throughout the game, monsters are going to try and swarm you and try and overwhelm you and try and kill you both. As with the original game, you're using D4s up to D20s potentially, depending on what you're doing. It is card-driven, dice-rolling combat. Judging by what is on the Board Game Geek page and what is from the original game, this is heavily inspired by an RPG with having armor classes and die rolling and attack values and defense values, as well as just how it's going to be simulating anywhere from 2 to 6 players. So if you're looking for something a little bit akin to D&D in a card form, this might be worth checking out. However, the Board Game Geek rating is a 6.6, so it's clearly not for everybody. So You'll just kind of have to take a closer look when it launches on the 20th. Also launching the 20th, and this is my pick number 1 of the week for the upcoming week. This is Hidden Leaders. This is by BFF Games and Board Game Circus, designed by Marcus and Andreas Mueller, as well as Raphael Stoker. This reminds me very much on the periphery of one of my surprise hits of 2020, Oriflamme, which won several French Game of the Year awards as a 3 to 5 player tactical, very meta prevalent card game with variable powers and card manipulation. It's a 2 to 6 player game where you are trying to align yourself with one of 4 possible factions, with each of these 4 factions having different win conditions. If red or green are ahead, they win. If it's a tie, blue wins. If they're both in the war zone, black wins. So you're trying to manipulate those elements without letting other people know what affiliation you have, or without making it at least a little too obvious, right? So what if you are the same faction as somebody else? You gotta have more cards in that faction than them at the end of the game, because there can only be one winner. Tableau building, bluffing, deduction. This is exactly why Oriflamme was so engaging, and it's still in my collection. This is going to give me that same sort of sense of excitement. And you can see you're going to be moving these up and down the track, similar to Oriflamme, but with Oriflamme, you're moving the cards themselves, not the pieces. And so there is going to be definite interaction there. If the price point is right on this, I'm going to be backing this on day 1. It depends on what exclusives, the price point, and just what all you're getting. I hope it's not too deluxe so the price point doesn't get jacked up, but we'll just kind of have to see on April 20 when it launches. This is one I wish I could have previewed for you guys, because this is right up my alley. So let's see what happens, because right now it's showing me all the good things. I'm a big fan of the aesthetic. I'm a big fan of the art as well. And if the gameplay holds up to be just as solid as it looks even beforehand without too much of a rules overhead, I'm going to be, like I said, I'm going to be in. So on April 20, let's check it out together. Look, Monster Hunter, right? Steamforged Games' latest crowdfunding game, latest IP immersion. The reviews are out there already for Board Game Co. and King of Average. It's an IP-based game that people have high expectations for because they're familiar with the source material. There's going to be direct comparisons to Primal, which was very akin to it in a slightly different manner. There's enough designer diaries here on Steamforged's website to know a little bit about the mechanics already. You can check out the video I put out earlier this month breaking down a lot of those mechanics in some detail already. The price points of the basic pledges are known. The do not get me on crowdfunding pledge, the quote-unquote core pledge, and then the all-in pledge. And my biggest question is just going to be, 1, the value of how much stuff you're getting this one compared to this one. Even though the price is doubled, the stuff is not doubled. At most, it's about 1.5. And are you going to see stretch goals that are gated behind just this level? And I think you are. I think they're going to do a CMON. I think they're going to do an expansion exclusive stretch goal separated out, as opposed to Monolith, which is just throwing everything basically in the core. And one of those models I prefer much more than the other. But just the question is, again, I'm in on Primal. I'm in on CMON stuff. Do I need to be in on this? And the mechanics are unique enough, no lie, that it's intriguing. I was not expecting to be this intrigued by it less than a week out at this point. I was expecting to either be fully in or fully out with the amount of knowledge that they've put out there. And unfortunately, I've got 1 foot in and I've got 1 foot out. And I'm doing the hokey pokey. And that is sort of what it's all about. I think it depends also if this is truly the all-in. Because they said that with Bardsung. With Bardsung, they made it clear that this was the gameplay all-in. Now, is this the gameplay all-in, or is this actually the all-in? Are we going to see terrain? Are we going to see upgraded whatevers, tokens, anything else? Are we going to see alternate sculpts? What all is going to be included in this? Is it going to be 1 wave or 2 wave? I don't think that's been announced unless I missed it. because I don't think people are terribly happy with some of the two-wave stuff that they put out there in the past. And now they've gone more to one wave recently, but has to be said. Between this and Bardsong, I mean, this is sort of their redemption arc, and I want to see what they're going to put out as a final product. So there are going to be a ton of eyes on this, and a ton of videos on this, a ton of opinions on the 20th, and you can guarantee I'm going to be one of them. I'm not going to be the loudest, I'm not going to be the most flashy, but I'm going to try to be the most substantial for you guys. So, after it launches, check back and see what I'm saying about it too. That is Monster Hunter World, the board game, launching on the 20th. Also launching on the 20th, by Frederick Gerard and Anthony Wolf, the next in sort of the thematic It's a Wonderful series is It's a Wonderful Kingdom. Now, I highlighted this at the beginning of the month on my video of Kickstarters to know for the month of April, because it's coming with a very strong pedigree. It is taking the core mechanics of It's a Wonderful World, and it's distilling it into a two-player experience in a very quick, a very streamlined head-to-head battler resource management style game. That is intriguing to me because this is the type of game I could see being able to play with my wife in a very streamlined fashion without a lot of overhead, because the rules are relatively straightforward of the three phases in the game itself. It's basically split, plan, play your cards. That is the essence and the nature of it. The overhead is not complex. But the strategy is slightly more so. So the question is it going to hold up to the pedigree of its predecessors? Is it going to be standing alone successfully? Is it going to be like Dinosaur Island and Duelosaur Island? I mean, both are relatively well thought of, but one slightly more so than the other. And if that's the case, which one of these is it going to be in this one? I don't know. But I think it's intriguing enough to know. Now, how much exclusives? Will there be a significant benefit of picking it up on Kickstarter versus at retail? That'd be the question, because a simple-ish, I'm not going to say it's simple, but ish, card game like this, what are going to be the incentives, right? Because you're not going to deluxify it, are you? What would that look like? So, why am I going to be picking it up now versus later is going to be the main question on this campaign when it launches. And that's what I'm going to be waiting to check out. And that might be the make it or break it for me of now versus later. Because I don't think the mechanics are going to be something that is going to be the unknown. I think that is going to be very straightforward. There's going to be plenty of videos, and it's not going to require a ton of videos to know whether or not this is for you. I guarantee all the big channels have already seen this. And they're going to have stuff on day launch. But is it going to be right for you, and are you okay with that? That's the question you're going to have to ask yourself next week on the 20th when It's a Wonderful Kingdom launches. Next up, on the 20th, because we're still on the 20th, everybody, Aldabas, Doors of Cartagena. This is being published by the Grand Gamers Guild. You may know them from Endeavor, the Artemis Project, or the one I'm waiting and receiving right now and other backers are getting as well, of the abstract Gorinto. Hand management, puzzly, tableau builder. And the Aldabas, or however it's pronounced, I'm probably screwing that up, are the knockers on the doors. And what these knockers represent is the social standing or the social class of the residents and the influence that they hold in the neighborhood. And you are trying to build up the most influential neighborhood via these cards. Here you can see an example of what your neighborhood may look like. There's going to be a lot of combinations and tableau building card management because the cards are going to have an influence on each other. If you have the most in one suit, you may get a bonus point in scoring a second suit. Each turn, you're getting 2 actions. Buy a card, play a card, or get 2 coins from the supply. When you play a card, you're activating cards below them, right below, as well as to the left of their abilities as well. So that is a really interesting mechanic. And just because I think from a mechanistic standpoint, Grand Gamers Guild has shown us with other games like Endangered or even the recently released Gorinto that they have the ability to put out very, very quality games. It's simple, it appears quick, the overhead is not there, but the puzzle nature of how you're going to interlock these sort of in a card version of, say, Glenmore 2-ish, when you're placing those tiles and then it's activating the tiles around it. That's what this reminds me of, only in a tableau card building sense instead. If the price point is good, if the exclusives are good, I may be backing this on day one as well. Again, I don't need to spend any more money in April, but I may. Grinto, the last one, I'm local to them, so I'm actually picking it up sometime in the next couple weeks. But I will say with Grinto, it was a little bit expensive for what it was, and the advantage of getting it at Kickstarter was the exclusive expansion. And will this have something similar? Will the price point be slightly different? Obviously, because the materials that was made of versus cards in this case are going to be completely different. So that's, again, just like Hidden Leaders, is going to be a big make it or break it, and see ultimately probably how successful campaigns like this that are heavily tableau and card based are going to do, especially with the competition that is going on already in this freaking fantastic hyperspace kraken month of April. But you're going to have to check it out if this interests you on April 20. Next up, Florence, launching on April 21. Euro-style area control game from Braincrack Games. Designed by Dean Morris, it's a 1 to 5 player game. You're navigating the city of Florence on the grand night of Carnival, trying to establish the most prestige. Over 9 rounds, you're going to be dispatching your family to attend parties, give gifts, brag about your accomplishments, engage in meaningful gossip, as well as engage the attention and the conversation of the Medici. You got to be careful though, because as time goes on, it's going to be harder and harder to navigate the cities between places. Now, why do you need to know and talk to these Medici? Because these are where the influence and the game is won. The one with the most influence in terms of the most individual Medicis that they have impressed will be the winner. But as time goes on, the way in which you impress them becomes harder and harder, because you have to impress each one of them in a different way. There's a 3-minute Kickstarter video on Board Game Geek, but otherwise, no rules or no other videos at this time. You can see a little bit with those stagecoaches and the people of what you're going to be doing and how you're going to have to be getting around in order to navigate this game, because they're literally going along the streets of Florence. A lot of iconography, as you can tell, and a little bit of everything else going on as an area control game. What is it going to look like? What's the price point going to be? How deluxe is it going to be made? And what are those deluxe coins going to look like, right? Come on now. Can't have it without the deluxe coins. You're going to have to just check it out and see along with the rest of us on April 21 when it launches. Next up is Patient Zero from Helvetic. It is a 2 to 5 player team-based action selection game. There's a couple videos already on Board Game Geek talking about how it plays. The concept is, as the title may suggest, you have found Patient Zero, and you are racing to find the antidote for the disease that has caused Patient Zero in the first place. You are pitting your lab versus another player or players' labs in the race to find said antidote. The general gist of this game is, in order to find part of the molecules that make up the virus or the pathogen in the first place, you are trying to deduce 3 of the possible 25 that come in a 5x5 grid. The top 3 cards of the deck are looked by another player who is the lab computer known as Savvy. Those are 3 of the molecules that the other players in the labs themselves are going to be trying to identify of the 25 possible ones. Each turn, each team is submitting a card to Savvy, to the player, to the computer, in order to do a certain action. The person who submits first gets to do the first action. The thing is, there's 7 possible actions that you can take each turn. That is where the strategy and the tactical nature of the deduction comes into play. You also only have a limited number of each of these actions in total, a total of 18. And so you have like 3 of this, 3 of this, 2 of this, 2 of this. And so you're having to decide when is appropriate to use one versus another. Again, more of the puzzly aspect of things. You get 2 chances to submit which 3 molecules you think it is. If you fail the second time, you lose completely. Does that sound like fun? Does that sound like Search for the Planet X, only in a lab form where you're If that sounds fun and that tickles your fancy of pretending or role playing that you're going to be a lab scientist, you might want to check this out because I think this is, again, something very unique from a puzzle deduction side of things. Patient Zero launching on the 20th. Okay, that's it. Quick and dirty this week. Not a whole lot, thankfully. Not a whole lot, I know, right? Coming out next week, I guess sheer quantity maybe a little bit less, at least on the upfront. There's always, again, like half a dozen that just launch out of nowhere, and who knows. As always, let me know what you want to see. Is this about right? Would you like to see more? Would you like to see less? Do you just want the sheer description? Do you want some commentary? Do you want less commentary? Whatever. Let me know. Let me know what you're backing. Let me know what you're avoiding. There's a whole lot of it going on right now. This is a busy, busy month. So we'll see where it goes. And as always, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, stuff coming out this week. Marvel United, Monster Hunter, a little bit of everything else. We'll see if I can get another review out. Just a little bit of everything under the sun. So, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for checking out. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Play some games. Get something to the table. Doesn't matter what it is. Just get something. Have some fun. Okay? Stay classy.